I am going to be showing you some mistakes I noticed students make when it comes to subjective refraction during clinicals. I know that during clinicals you are tensed and you're anxious. That alone makes you to make some irrelevant mistakes. And I always say that it's important you practice these skills every day. Go into the clinic, practice these skills every day. So let me show you some mistakes the students I recently invigilated made. So first of all, I noticed that when some students were asked to perform subjective refraction, they just came and just started, right? So the first thing you have to do is to make sure that your Phoropter head is properly aligned. Okay, so now let's look at the things you have to look out for. If you look at my Phoropter setting right now, you can see that the occluder is in place. So you have to make sure it's open. And sometimes your examiner may just want to confuse you and put something like vertical red Maddox rod, right? And I noticed that some students just come and start the testing with all these things in place. So make sure your occluder is removed and every other accessory is removed and it is set at 0. Do that for the 2 eyes. The next thing you have to look out for is the setting of your Phoropter head. Looking at my Phoropter head right now, you can see that it's slanting, right? So we need to make it straight, we need to make it level, because if you're working with astigmatic corrections, it's going to affect your axis. Now let us level the Phoropter head. This bubble here is meant to be set in between these 2 vertical lines for it to be level. And you can see that my Risley prisms are in place. I am not performing habitual Fourier, I am only performing subjective refraction. So this should be out of the way. So you need to make sure this is out of the way. You must ensure that you set the PD distance to suit your patient. So depending on your patient's pupillary distance, you set your Phoropter to match your patient's PD, because you will want to induce prism and you would want for the optical centers to align properly. Now let's ensure that our powers are set at 0. Both eyes. Let's check the astigmatic lens part. Ensure we take it to 0. So you can see we are ready for the subjective refraction. And you're supposed to start with your objective refraction findings. You don't have to ask your patients if they know their prescription. That's not your patient's business, right? So you must have done your objective refraction and then you put your objective refraction in place. So let's assume that this patient's objective refraction, you got plus 0.5. Now remember that subjective refraction is done monocularly. So let's occlude the left eye and we'll start with the right eye. You put your objective findings in place. So this is where you start from before you begin to do every other thing that we do in subjective refraction. I hope this helps. Follow Ireland Academy for more insightful tips and do well to subscribe.